Tom, I've sat on this show with Labor counterparts, albeit not Josh, back in January when the Labor Party were calling on us to just start vaccinating before even the TGA had rolled out its medical assessment of it. And I think the point that, I don't think that's what Australians want. Australians don't want us rushed into this for the sake of it, for the sake of meeting an arbitrary timeline. They want us to follow the medical advice, as we have always done, and make sure this is rolled out in a very considered way with these vaccines. And I just don't think what Josh is doing, which is undermining the confidence that people can have in the vaccine without any solutions, without any other political solutions, saying what Labor would do differently is helpful.
Trying for this part of a week to try to get firm numbers on how many vaccines we had in the country, how many were ready to go, and it was an impossible task, though, Julian. It hasn't been clearly explained. To go to one part, aged care workers and aged care residents and their vaccinations, fewer than half of them have been vaccinated this far into the rollout.
Well, we've vaccinated, over 1 million vaccinations have already been distributed. So it is happening now for those frontline workers. And it's going to continue, right? But again, it's dependent on supply. And in terms of, you're talking about getting the numbers as they're rolling into the country. Well, there's a tactical reason for not revealing exactly when the vaccines are turning up in country, because then they can be, then that supply chain can change.
What do you mean? You can't say the numbers of how many are in Australia? Why not?
Well, there's a supply chain to get the vaccine into the country, isn't it? And it has to transit through other certain countries who perhaps are not as in a good position as us, and they may take the opportunity to secure the vaccine for themselves. So
we're not saying
we announce it when they arrive in country
or here. Yeah. We're just saying how many are in the country. Yeah, there's no technical reason not to tell the Australian people or journalists.
Well, and what we do is, as soon as it hits country, that's when it's demonstrated to Australians how many we're bringing into the country and how many have actually landed.
Hasn't been that clear, I'm afraid, so far.
Well, there is numbers. There is numbers that is being. Yeah, it's very clear in terms of, because we've shown that we've already rolled out over.
I'm just going to ask you that one more time, though. Just on AstraZeneca, Josh Burns, do you admit there's an element of bad luck here for the government on AstraZeneca and this clotting issue?
Of course, it's not ideal, Tom. Of course, it's not ideal that a major part of the Australia's vaccine rollout is not the preferred vaccine for under 50s. But that doesn't mean that the government can walk away from its commitments. It doesn't mean that the government should be walking away. This is too important to sort of throw your hands in the air and give up like what Scott Morrison's done. And I just need to say, because Julian verbaled the Labor Party before, we weren't saying roll out vaccines before they're approved. What we were saying in January was that the approval of the Pfizer vaccine was likely to happen in January. Therefore, get vaccines ready so that when it is approved, vaccines can go into people's arms. And instead of being ready, we have to wait until March until vaccines.
Let me ask you this finally. Nearly done. How do you both feel about getting the AstraZeneca jab yourselves right now? Josh, you first.
No, it is the preferred medical advice to get the Pfizer vaccine, and it's not to be undermined, that advice. That's really serious advice. The issue is with the clotting is that there are young people
also with,
can die
the situation
from this.
Gets worse if that advice is. So it's a no from you, I think, Julian.
Well,
we're nearly out of time.
My view is to follow the medical advice. But again, even the AstraZeneca vaccine is very effective, very safe. The blood clotting risk is very small. So my advice to Australians is if they're offered the vaccine by their GP, to get it, whether that be Pfizer or AstraZeneca.
So hang on, you're saying Australians should get it if they're offered it, even if they're under 50?
No, I'm saying if they're offered it by their GP, and their GP will follow the advice of the Principal Health Committee, which is AstraZeneca for people over 50.
We're going to have to go. Julian, Josh, talk soon.